Welcome back to another episode of the Mama to Be Honest podcast. My name is Janaea. This is episode 12. Thank you so much for being patient with me. I have been a little hiatus, been traveling for work. So flippin' excited for this week's episode. It also took us a while to get this teed up, and you will see why. I have two phenomenal women sitting with me. They are two of the closest people to me in my life. I consider them my sisters, my best friends, and I think we're just gonna hop into it. We're going to let this episode kind of take its course, but without further ado, I would love to introduce Amber Clark and Rolly Narito. Thank you both for being here with me and for driving 4 hours to be here. Not that you had anything better to do. No, I'm just kidding.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But I would love to do a introduction of you both, and then I'd love to pass it over to you to share a little bit about yourselves. Amber, I have known Amber since, how long have we known each other? 2010? We went to high school together, but we never really crossed paths in high school. And then we really started connecting when we both worked at the same job, right?
Shout out Giovanni.
Shout out Giovanni. Shout out to Gios. Shout out to Gios. Yeah, Amber and I worked at a fish market together for, I think, a couple years on and off together. But
I was like 19?
19? Yeah. And so I was, that would have made me, 18? Yeah. So, yeah, Amber and I met kind of like off season from college, and we just kind of developed our friendship relationship from there, and we've been friends ever since.
They used to confuse us.
What was that?
They used to
confuse us. They used to call us sisters. Like, oh my gosh, are you guys twins? Like, no, we're not. Anyway, Amber has a long-standing career in management, hospitality, but she's recently made a career transition. She's now working for the finance department of the county of San Luis Obispo. My other special guest is self-explanatory here, but she is one of the closest people in my life. I would consider her my sister, even though we are actually cousins. She is a phenomenal mother and human being, and probably the person aside myself and my husband that knows me best, better than anyone else. Rolly Narito, thank you for being with us today.
Hello.
Rolly is a jack of many trades, but she currently has a career in small business management and operations strategy, specifically in the restaurant space. And she is a mother to my nephew. He is how old now? 14?
He's 14. He's turning 14.
He's turning 14. That is crazy because I used to change that kid's diapers, and that kind of blows my mind. I look at my kids now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when Jaden was that small. Freaking crazy. But I am so excited to have both of these women here today, not only because I haven't seen them in probably over a year, but
like 6 months out.
Yeah, seriously. But they both have an incredible perspective and set of experiences in womanhood and motherhood and pregnancy, and I just think it's really important to me to be able to shed light on other perspectives and to, constantly educate myself on other people's experiences. It's something that I think is really important and critical for a lot of women that may, not identify with a lot of people they're seeing on social media or in the public eye. So I cherish their experiences, and I am so excited to learn and have a conversation with them today. It's so funny because the three of us, when we get together, it's kind of like hilarious chaos, but it's also like what I love about you both is that we're all very busy people, and we're all in our 30s now. We're kind of at the late stage of being young, so we've got a lot going on. We've got lives of our own. We've got jobs and careers and things that we have to do, and so what I appreciate is when we all get back together, it's like we haven't skipped a beat.
To be continued.
Yeah, exactly. There's no like, hey, let's break the ice real quick, even though we're about to do like an icebreaker game. But no, that's what I really love. And these two women I can go to for literally everything. And I've learned a tremendous amount from them, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and just I admire you both so much. So I really appreciate you being willing to come on here and talk about your experiences and being really vulnerable with me. So I really appreciate it.
Well, we love you.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
You've accomplished so much. This is so fun.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But before we get into the deep stuff, I would love to do like a lightning round for our listeners to get to know you guys a little bit better. So I think how it's going to go is I'm going to say a question and you have to answer right away. But to make this a little more organized, I'll ask and then Amber, you'll respond first and then Rolly, you'll respond right after her. Okay?
Got it.
Let's go. Lightning round.
I'm scared.
Talk or text?
Text.
Talk.
She's
Talk.
all day. She
All day.
She called me sometimes.
Yeah,
she called me and I was like, "What's up?" I'm in the shower and she's like, "I'm just gonna let you know, I'm just getting up and I'm on the way." And I hung up and I was like, "This could have been a fucking text."
Kim or Court?
What?
Kim or Court?
Oh, Court, all the way.
Court. 100.
Kendall or Kylie?
Ooh, Kylie.
Kylie. Favorite food?
Oh, that's a tough one. Beans. I love Mexican food.
Dude, pizza done.
Pizza, yeah, of course.
Pizza.
Favorite cocktail?
Tito's soda, splash of ginger beer.
Grey Goose, soda water with lime.
Grey Goose? I heard grape goose.
Grey Goose, make you loose.
Sand or snow?
Ooh, sand.
Sand.
Nobody likes snow.
No, fuck that.
I mean, it's...
Are we allowed to...
I
should I
tried,
watch
I
my
tried.
language on
No,
this
you're
one?
fine. Guilty pleasure show.
Ooh.
It's terrible. It's
Lightning.
called Once Upon a Time. It's like all the storybook characters. It's terrible.
Okay, and?
Oh, no, I can't.
No show?
Show?
Guilty pleasure show.
Kardashians.
The Price is Right? Jeopardy?
Oh.
Love Island.
Love Island? Kardashians?
Or what was that one on Netflix where they date in the pods?
Rolly doesn't watch TV, huh?
Yeah, I don't have a TV in my room.
Yeah, you're...
Sad moment.
Alright, never mind.
Pass.
Side, back, or tummy sleeper?
All three.
All three?
Yeah.
What about you?
Side, left side.
Left
Actually,
side.
not back. Just kidding. Side and tummy. I was like, wait, back.
To the left. To the... Okay.
Audiobooks or read books?
No books.
No books?
Both.
Oh, I am also... Well, I like podcasts, so I guess audiobooks for me.
Yeah.
Favorite season?
I mean, where we live, we don't have seasons. So it's...
But if you were to think of
the
true
same
seasons. Fall?
No, so where
Fall.
we live, I like fall the best because it's
Warmer.
like warmer
Yeah.
in the fall. Like
Okay, so summery then.
so summery into fall.
Okay.
Yes.
I would say fall.
Fall, okay.
For sure.
Favorite sport?
Yay, sports ball. I like basketball. I like to watch live basketball.
Same.
You watch basketball?
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes.
You like basketball?
I
Rolls?
like basketball, but since my son started playing football, I'm starting to get like a
Into
little...
football? Yeah, football's
like,
my
it's
favorite.
Pretty badass.
Morning person or evening person?
Probably morning person.
I am a full-blown evening.
Really? You're a night owl?
Yes, I try. I go through like waves in the morning, but I wake up at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whiskey or tequila?
Ooh.
God, neither. They both make me gag.
Actually,
I can only drink vodka.
Okay.
I like vodka, but whiskey.
Whiskey,
for sure.
okay. Pasta or rice?
Oh, pasta.
I have to pick rice.
Rice.
So.
And dog person, cat person?
Dogs all the way.
Doggy dog.
Dogs.
Snoop Dogg.
Well, thank you for playing my lightning round.
Thank you for that. We needed that.
Woo! No, that was fun. So today, like the goal of today's conversation, we've obviously talked ahead of this, but I really just think that the three of us have a very unique kind of walk and like season of life in where we are currently. We're all like the three of us are extremely close, and we've all got very different perspectives and experiences with womanhood, motherhood, and pregnancy. And so I really kind of want to shed light on how different our experiences are. And there are topics that I'm extremely close to and topics that I'm not and know very little about. And the same goes for anyone listening. And so, you know, there are just experiences that I want to learn more about in addition to, you know, sharing my own. And I think that, you know, you all sharing your experiences would, you know, make other women feel like they're seen or they're heard. Or I think this podcast is a lot about like vulnerability and kind of breaking like stigmas or taboos around experiences in motherhood and pregnancy and being a woman, kind of where I want to go today. And we've got a variety of topics that we've kind of teed up that I kind of want to go into and just see where the conversation takes us. So let's jump right into it. Are you guys ready?
Ready,
Let's do
ready.
it.
All right.
do it.
So I think the three of us really represent like different timelines of motherhood. So from young motherhood to like later stage, mid-stage motherhood, by society's definition of, you know, becoming a mother, becoming a parent. And then also questioning whether motherhood is the right journey for us, if we want to continue to go down that journey. I guess like my first question is, how would you describe like or characterize your motherhood timeline? Are there things that you think about often? How has your timeline like shifted the course of your life? Like really, for example, like you were a young mom when you were pregnant with Jaden, and are there things that you would change given the chance to do them again? Or, you know, in being a young mom, has that kind of given you a very like young life to live now that Jaden is like nearly out of the house? Like, how do you think about your timeline of motherhood?
I think it's interesting because I had him at 19. During that time, you know, your brain has not yet to develop, okay?
Right.
So you are growing with them, and it's scary. I remember the haunting piece that would, when I'd wake up in the morning, I'd think like, oh my gosh, I am responsible for a human being, and I'm like, I don't even know what the heck I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying. And so I think that taking that piece is that I was very hard on him for a little bit, because it's almost like we had like a sibling dynamic going on. And
Like as he got older, you mean?
when he was younger.
Yeah.
But as
Like a
I
kid. Yeah.
yes, exactly. But as I turned as I get older, like 34, like I'm more mature, you know. So back then it was all a blur. Honestly, like right now when all of my friends are having all these kids, they ask me questions. I was like, I'm the wrong person to ask. Like,
Do you have trouble recalling that time of your life?
Yes, because I was like a fight or flight mode type of thing. It was all like a flash because I was just trying to get by, you know, at that point. But I had a lot of support.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of support from my family, my mom, my dad, both sides, his dad. But for the most part, it was just like trial and error, you know. Mm-hmm. But I had to really learn how to love him. I was very detached, you know. When he was born, he came out with a lot of fluid in his lungs. So we had to take him from... he was born in French hospital, and they had to take him out to Sierra Vista. And I was about the fourth person that was able to hold him. And so it was interesting because I felt very detached for a really long time. And I thought, you know, I didn't really get to talk to moms about this because everybody was so, you know...
everybody was young back then. Nobody else.
Well, then, I didn't really have much to talk to. But most moms I would die for my son. I love him. But, the emotional connection of really just, you know...
So was it more for you... Would you describe it as it was instinctive rather than like emotional? Like, yes, you would die for
I knew
your
what
child.
to do to make him survive. Yeah. But for the most part, I had, within the connection, I had to build that throughout his life.
Yeah.
Of really getting to know his personality. Other than that, he was just, you know, like this baby. And then the frustrating piece was as he grew older, maybe like I think the hard piece was like, this is a long gap too. From 3 to 8 was rough for me. Like I just didn't really understand, and I had to figure out how to really connect with him, and even discipline him. You know, and but yeah, I had to learn that and set things aside because since I was a single mom and things with like, you know, his dad, trying to figure out that whole piece was a really big lesson. Sure. You know, it was rough. Yeah. You know, but we made it, and he is very connected to his dad's side. Yeah. He's remarried and has he's the eldest out of 3. So the eldest out of 4. Yeah. But he's a good brother, and I think he has like a great life where he can experience, you know, being a single, you know, like his own thing. with me and then like with his dad, so but but it's an interesting experience. It humbles you. You have to really let go of your ego, or it's not about you, it's about them.
Do you feel like being a young mom you were essentially forced to grow up faster than you think?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think my biggest struggle in the beginning, and when I mentioned like ego, is I was probably the youngest mom. Some of the parents that were maybe like 10 years older than me would kind of look at me just like, wouldn't take me seriously at first and just be like, oh, she's like, they'd ask me like, oh, is that your brother? I'm like, no, that's my freaking child. That's my son. Like, oh, how old were you? I'm like, it doesn't matter, but I felt like I always had to prove myself, you know? But when they see the connection that we, what I had to try to like build with him, or just the way that I was able to talk to him or be involved, like especially with sports and stuff like that, they started to, like, I had to like really fight, to be a mom,
right. That honestly, I reflect back on the time when Jaden was very young, because arguably that was the closest that we had ever been in our relationship.
Right.
Because we worked together, we were spending a lot of time together. Jaden was maybe 2 or 3 at the time, but what's hard for me to recall is there was no, that must have felt at times very isolating for you, because anyone your age, myself included, had no way to relate to that experience. No one was becoming a parent at that time, especially people our age are not becoming parents that young, like maybe rare, but I feel like the people in your community probably weren't, other than a couple of your friends that maybe didn't live shocked. In the area.
Like, they didn't really know how to like, like
relate,
or maybe they wouldn't hit me up to be like, hey, like, are you free? They all automatically assumed that I was not available to hang out, so I'd have to be the one to reach out myself. But I didn't take that personally. I think I was okay with that. I don't mind. I'm really bad at texting back and call, whatever. But but the great piece about it now that my son is like 14 or turning 14, is that now everybody's having babies or don't have babies, but the whole point is that I am, he's more independent, and I think that it was a great, like, long stretch. Like, everything is temporary, and it flies by so quickly. So if I were to go and reflect back at my 19, 20, whatever years old, I would have been more present, not as scared.
Yeah.
But now also you're like done.
With the feeling like, as much as we're connected now and I love him dearly and he's, he's an awesome child.
He's a good ass kid.
He's a great, he's like, he's freaking awesome. I already know that, the empty nest piece of it. Like, when he flies out, and we talk about this all the time, right now he's at, with his dad right now for the summertime. And I don't feel any type of way of that longing of I miss him, but I'm not like crying about it. I know it's beneficial to him and he needs that time with his family. But justifying that, I think that once he gets older, and he graduates and moves on, and I know he already feels comfortable in leaving, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't have that like weirdness of like, please don't leave my house, or like, please be with me forever.
I think there's really something to be said about that, because having your child so young, you've got a whole life to live.
I'm like, let's travel.
You are 34. That is incredible. He's going to be, probably wanting to be out on his own in a few short years, which is crazy to think. But thinking about, comparing your experience with, I think, our larger generation, like, millennials are really kind of the first of our kind to demonstrate a really low birth rate. We're delaying having or building families. We're delaying, a longer to have children for many reasons that are out of our control. Financial reasons, economic reasons. It's just not in the cards for us to have like this white picket fence at like 20 years old, you know what I mean? And be so financially secure. And I think that's completely understandable. But, I would love to kind of go into your experience, Amber, and kind of how you are approaching motherhood. And I know you have really heartbreaking story to share, and I would, it's something that we've only kind of touched the surface on, but and I don't want to speak for you. I would love you to kind of speak for yourself, but like in your experience of nearly becoming a mother and now, reflecting on that time and now going into, the next stage of your life, how are you thinking about motherhood? If you're willing to share a bit about your experience and how you are approaching thinking about your motherhood timeline, if there is one.
I don't now. I'm 33. I don't want kids at this point in my life. I don't see that in my future.
Sure.
It's not, for me, it's not in my cards. But at the same time, when I think back to when I was younger, I never wanted kids. Because I raised my brother and sister at a very young age and turned into an adult very young.
You were like a mom, basically.
Yeah, so I was like, I've been there, done that. I don't need kids of my own. I love kids. I love your guys' kids. I love all my friends' kids. I'm like, yes, cool. I'm going to be that.
You were that eldest sister that had to raise all of her siblings.
Yeah.
Again, mom. You're
right.
So, and that's cool. I'm super grateful for that experience. I wouldn't be who I am today had I not done that. But yeah, I don't want kids. I also am a little bit traumatized. I had a terrible experience.
Yeah.
I was pregnant and I got to 6 months and then we lost the baby. The baby had trisomy 18, which is basically like a death sentence. So most of the time you miscarry early on when the baby has trisomy 18 and less than...
What is trisomy 18 if you're willing to share?
So it's it's like an extra chromosome. It's basically like Down syndrome, but way worse.
Okay.
So your baby has deformities. They noticed it during one of my ultrasounds. They said, "Oh, okay." So it started. The baby had a hole in its stomach, and I can't remember what they called it. They had a scientific term for that. So there was a hole in its stomach. They were saying it during the early developmental stages, where the umbilical cord is and the belly button. It never fully sealed. It never closed. But they were saying that a lot of times when the baby's born, they can just sew that up and it's fine and they'll just have a little scar. So that was the first thing that we were praying about, working out okay. And then I went to a second ultrasound and that's when they diagnosed the baby with the trisomy 18 because I guess there was something going on with the feet of the baby. They were different sizes and the head was really big. And so they noticed more deformities basically. And most, I think it's 10% of kids of babies born with that disease don't live past a year or two. And when they do live that long, they're in the hospital the whole time. They don't function. Anyway, 6 months goes along, that whole thing went down. So that was really traumatizing. I was in the hospital, had a blood clot in my uterus.
Oh my gosh.
How many months were you?
6 months. Yeah. So they told me.
So you had to actually labor and deliver.
Well, I was put out for that, so I didn't...
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I was put to sleep, and then the blood clot happened. I, just bled. I was, hemorrhaging, basically. Bleeding out everywhere. And then...
Did you know that was happening?
Well, yeah, because they were, monitoring me. So they were if you see, if you feel, a big gush of blood, call the nurse. And then all of a sudden, they were about to let me out, and then I felt a big gush of blood.
Oh my gosh.
I was oh my God. And I got
glad you were still there.
So I go, and then, yeah, so it was gnarly. And then they did an ultrasound, and there was a blood clot in there, so it wasn't, my uterus wasn't, contracting back to normal size like it's supposed to after
really?
you do that. Mm. And then, yeah, so they had to put me out and, basically suck the blood clot out so that my uterus could, start to contract back. Mm. But after that, it was fine. They make you sign the waiver that's you might die.
Yeah, I hate those.
Here's a big, I had an IV on this arm or
Crazy.
IV in this hand. And if we have to save you, here's a waiver saying that we might have to give you a blood transfusion. And I was don't show me. Just don't let me die.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so that whole thing happened. And that was super traumatizing for me for a long time. After that, I was absolutely not. My ex-husband really wanted to have kids, and I was just super traumatized and super closed off to it because of that experience. Yeah. So now that I'm no longer with him,
Are you kind of rediscovering your what you truly kind of want in your in your life timeline or in your journey, and motherhood's just not in the cards for you for that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had a whole plan. Like, if I were to ever be a mother, I would have to be this X, Y, and Z. You know, your whole like, I want to be married for 5 years and I want to have a house and blah blah blah. And then I, you know, kind of had that, and I realized somewhere in there that that was not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm really happy now.
Thank you.
It was super traumatizing, but I'm over it. Obviously, it's still sad to think about, but
yeah.
No, I mean, thinking about pregnancy loss, like, so many women are familiar and have their own experiences of pregnancy loss. I think late-term pregnancy loss is something that many, like, I just cannot even fathom what you had to go through physically, mentally, emotionally. Like, what was that healing process like for you?
So that was gnarly. Like, that was, the aftermath was gnarly because your body thinks that you have a baby. So you have, you know, all your senses are heightened. You have
your
boobs,
breasts are engorged.
My boobs were, that was the most painful, one of the most painful things I've ever had to experience. Like, bless my ex-mother-in-law, she was like, but put the cabbage. She's like, she had kind of had, I think she had mastitis.
Yeah.
When after she had her son, so she was like, my doctor told me to do cabbage. So she was giving me all these tips to like help my boobs stop hurting. But I was putting ice. I had ice packs, tight bras. Like, they were rocks on my chest, and it was so painful. And even the nurses were like, don't touch your nipples. Don't play with don't even touch your boobs. She's like,
because you'll produce.
Yes, she's like, sleep in a tight bra, and put ice like as much as you can. It was so painful for like a week. It was so terrible. And then on top of that, your hormones are nuts.
You dropped all your hormones. Yeah.
I felt like a complete psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there was, you know, obviously the trauma from child loss, but then your hormones on top of it, and then and like postpartum anxiety was insane. Like, I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to do anything. I just felt dread all the time. Like, it was just like dread. Like, I felt like I was going to die at any moment for a long time after that.
I honestly cannot think of a more unfair experience because you are being put through the ringer of postpartum. Yeah. And your baby is not there.
Yeah.
Like,
It was,
it's crazy.
Yeah. It was hard I don't know. It's hard, you know, it's God's plan or whatever you want to call it. Everything happens for a reason, or, you know, whatever. You could say it, whatever. And I would never ever say that I'm glad that happened, but I think that it was kind of God or the universe or whatever's saying, like, I don't know, I just, they
make mistakes.
Doesn't, it won't let stuff happen to you that it knows that you can't handle.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like, at the time, I couldn't handle it. I felt like I couldn't handle it, and I wasn't handling it. I was just, like, shut down and just pretending like I was okay.
Yeah. What was the turning point for you where you kind of saw, okay, I'm coming out of this, I'm healing from this? Is that something you've gone through yet?
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't remember, like, how long after that it was or how long into it, but I did therapy. I was doing therapy. I had a therapist who wasn't very good. So, like, the first round, honestly, like, therapy, they're not all created equal. Like, some therapists are terrible.
You gotta, like, shop through them.
Yeah, this lady was terrible. So I stopped seeing her, and then I kind of, like, realized that I could just do it myself. I started learning, like, researching ways to, like, manage anxiety. It was mostly the postpartum anxiety that, like, really messed with me, because I felt there was like voices in my head. There was, like, a different version of me inside of my head that was telling me I was gonna die and that I was in danger all the time. And then there was, like, normal me that was like, you're not gonna die, you're just having anxiety, like, it's okay, like, this isn't actually gonna happen, you're just, like,
this was postpartum.
Fantasizing.
Is it a feeling or
like,
a voice?
Both.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like you're just, like, because I would have to have conversations with myself to, like, talk myself out of having a panic attack.
Oh my.
Yeah, but I mean, eventually therapy, and then, like, researching ways of, like, how to, like, I started, you know, walking regularly and exercising.
Sunshine.
Sunshine. I started eating healthy. I, like, read a couple, like, little books here and there. I was, like, trying to do diary things, but I can't get into the diary things. It's just not for me. And then I found a good therapist. I love it. And saw her for a little while. And then, I just kind of, I think, obviously your hormones, like, slow down and they, like, regulate back to normal.
Time helped.
Yeah, time heals all, in a sense. I still, like, think about it and I'm like, damn.
You do have a tattoo.
Yeah. Can I see? Oh, baby.
Angel baby.
So that was, like, I mean, that...
He never had a name.
I love that. No. Do you feel... Because... And I think it's something I would love to know is, like, what is your connection like to your lost son? I mean, I would consider you, like, a forever mom to that baby, right? But, like, or is that not something that's productive for you, to think about like that?
I don't like think of myself like as a mother. Obviously, I know it's like my lost son because at that point, when you're 6 months pregnant, you can like feel it.
Yeah, you can feel the kicks. Yep.
Yeah, you can feel the kicks. Like that it's there. And the unfortunate part was that like I didn't really want kids going into it, but I was like, okay, I'm pregnant. We're gonna do this. And we were getting married. Like I'm like, okay, well, because we got engaged and then we found out like a week later that I was pregnant. So it was like, oh, so. But then, as you go further onto it, you get more comfortable with the fact. I was always also terrified to, like, go into labor. I was terrified to, like, birth a kid. I was like, oh, like, I don't want to be pregnant. I'm scared of all that. Like, I don't want the epidural. It's like, all the, I'm like, I can't. I hate hospitals. I hate IVs, shots. I don't like any of that. Mm-hmm. Tattoo me, pierce me, but don't give me a shot. So I was, like, super scared of all of that, but I had finally kind of, like, embraced, like, okay, like, this is gonna happen. Like, I'm just gonna have to get over it. It's just gonna happen. Like, I can do this. Women do this all the time. That's what we're, like, made to do, quote unquote. Like, like, I got this. And then that happened, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess I don't got this.
You did get it, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. But, so that was weird. So, I mean, like, Mother's Day has always been weird for me, just from my relationship with my mom, but also... that whole thing, like, I just kind of like, I guess I'm a mom. My godmother is always like, tells me Happy Mother's Day, and I think that's really sweet of her. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I know that, like, I loved that baby. He didn't have a name. We just called him Baby G. He was a boy.
Baby G?
Yeah, because Baby Griley.
Oh. Like what? I don't know.
Baby G for Griley.
Baby G.
Oh, Baby Griley. So cute.
So he was Baby G. We didn't have a name for him picked out yet. But, yeah. So, I mean, I definitely feel that connection to him. I feel like I was an almost mother, but I don't feel like I can't, like, speak on motherhood,
I think, what I think about, fetal loss, pregnancy loss, some women react in the opposite way. I want to immediately try again. I want to immediately do this. Mm-hmm. In your situation, which is just as valid and just as, I think, significant, is it... given, where your life is shifting, it almost made you realize, okay, this is not something that I want. Yeah. Right? And I think that is just as important as women saying, okay, this is something I want to try for again after my healing period. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's incredibly important. Is that something that you are, in essence, like, a little grateful for, like, having having that experience, but kind of what it's given you after the fact, and, like, that clarity, or, you even reflecting on, I've never wanted kids. Mm-hmm. Like, do you feel that, you are kind of in that right place now that that's happened?
Yeah, no, I do. Because I think, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know that, like, had the baby been born, I feel like the motherly instinct is in me, like, naturally, like, I know that I would be a fucking amazing mother.
Yeah, amazing
mother. Like, not to be cocky, but
you would have been awesome.
But
I'm not a regular mom, I'm a cool mom.
No, but I know that I would have been a really good mother. It's just, like, kind of naturally, I, like, mother people in my life, and... So I know that it would have been great for me, and I know that my husband at the time would have been a great father, and we would have been, a pretty good team. But, like, emotionally, I just was not ready for that at all. Like, emotionally or physically, I felt like my body failed me once, so I felt like it was going to fail me again.
You don't want to go
and I was like, I can't. Like, that was so traumatizing for me, like, just the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that I just felt like I can't ever do that again.
Yeah.
And then, again, now that I'm, like, older and I'm no longer married, I'm no longer in that relationship, like, I just feel like, yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit more free, and, like, I don't, like, I'm... Like you said, I'm not glad. I would never be glad that happened. I would never be, like, thankful for that experience. I mean, I guess I'm thankful for every experience that happened to me. It all is a part of the lesson. But I do have clarity on what I want for myself, selfishly, and it's not children.
Not selfish.
It's not selfish.
It's not selfish.
Yeah, but it is not children,
yeah.
and I don't think it's to be... I don't think the white picket fence life is for me. Like,
sure.
the white picket fence, like, the doing the same thing, like, the routine. I was telling her this morning over here, like, the routine life. Like, I love a routine, but that, like, I know, it's just not
for you. It doesn't
something
make you.
It doesn't make you
happy.
happy.
Everyone,
kind of, like, sucks my soul out a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just not for me.
Do you think... Well, I guess this is not really a productive question because none of us know this, but, like, do you think that desire will change later in life?
Well, that's a good question.
That is a good question. I've always thought about that because I know some people are like, oh, you'll meet the right person and then you'll want,
It's not dependent on the person.
Honestly,
It's really not. In my opinion, you know what I mean?
No.
It's not. It's like, it's either some people are drawn to it. Mm-hmm. Some people are not. It's not. There's no right or wrong answer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, like, for me, like, the idea of being pregnant, I don't ever want to be pregnant again. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I don't want to birth children ever again.
Keyword in that is pregnancy.
Adoption?
Too.
Yeah,
Would I consider adoption?
That is a good point. Because
100%.
pregnancy and motherhood don't necessarily need to be the same thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There are so many ways to become a mother or be a mother or mother someone or something.
Mm-hmm. So, like, would I consider adoption? 100%. Like, not right now, no, because I'm still, like, working my newly single life out. But in the future, for sure, 100%. If I were to find somebody, like, in the future, maybe that was into that, like, I would be down to have a partner in that. I also I'm not opposed to being, like, a single mother of a child event, like, maybe when I'm older. Mm-hmm. But not right now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
like,
I love that you shared
honestly,
that.
Like, I was a little, obviously, sensitive coming into this conversation because, like, we've never had it not over text, and I, first of all, just, like, love you so much, and I'm incredibly sorry that you had to go through that experience. Like, it's something that, I mean, it sounds like you never wish that upon anyone. Like, it's just, I cannot even imagine.
I feel like I want to give her a hug.
I love you. I love you.
I love you.
Wow. It's just, it's crazy. It's like, I read stories of infant loss and, like, stillbirth, and those are the experiences that I just need to sit with, because I'm like, it could happen to anyone, but you never think it's going to be you. And so that's something really, like, it's a powerful testimony for, like, you to have, and I think going, sharing with anyone that might have gone through that type of situation. So let's go into, I think, a topic that I think dovetails nicely in from talking about how motherhood isn't all created equal. Like, motherhood can manifest itself in so many different ways. It is not all white picket fence everywhere. And I think you really have kind of the ultimate experience there in, your experience navigating single parenthood and having to develop a really strong co-parenting relationship, which I know hasn't always been easy for you. I can kind of gather that it's gotten to a really good point now. It's probably not, like, a straight line up to that point. It's probably been very roller coastery. Yeah. So you've had that ultimate experience co-parenting and developing that, really co-parenting with your son's father. Like, what have been some of the most challenging hurdles to get over when it comes to co-parenting, and what things have come more naturally or easy to you in getting to that point?
I think that, especially when you have a baby young, you go through these battles because you're in a healing process, right? and then you have this child, you know? So you're trying to figure out during that time as you're healing, that part kind of gets neglected for a little bit, like, to be honest, you know, where you're kind of, again, I mentioned fight or flight, where you're kind of just trying to survive and emotions, you know, become the best of you. And over time, I think that once you do heal, you are able to go straight down the line of like, okay, what matters is this child. And it should have always mattered, but I'm not going to lie about how it became a whirlwind of, it was like fire, you know. But the struggle piece is more about it being on the same page. So you got to look at the perspective of a child's mind, you know. Kids are very routinely, okay? So if you're not on the same page of discipline, it can cause, you know, an ordeal where it's like, especially like if you're hopping like back and forth. In my situation, it's more like Jaden is with me full time, but he's with his dad, you know, special gatherings, like, you know, holidays, holidays, summer, and whatnot. So the frustrations I had to go through was that when I'd get my son back, whatever his routine was to adjust him through. It would like take like 2 weeks to be like, you know, like this is, you know,
this is me. This is not your dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, these are the rules in my household. Period. You know, and to adjust from that, and I noticed that not many women really talk about the triggers of pieces, because the characteristics of your child is a lot like either dad or mom, you know, and they but they
lean in one direction.
Yeah, they go through like this habit of soaking in what mom or dad is doing, you know. So when they come back and they be like this baby child of the other, and I mean, again, it's great, but I noticed a lot of it had to reflect back in myself. Like, why is that triggering me? He's his own human being. Like, that I had to do my own work. Like, it wasn't about changing him, because he's perfect the way that he is. So what can I do to utilize like my tools to build him as a human being, rather than triggering and feeling like I have to attack it, you know? And I had to learn that pretty young, and it took a lot of freaking time to do that, because you know, resentment happens. You start to feel a little, you know, just anger or just annoyance. Like, it's just very annoying is the word, you know. But over time, you are able, especially as your child gets older, and respecting the other, you know, the other parent, you know, where you can make ground rules of like, okay, like, agree to disagree, you know, like, what are your ground rules at this time? And like, we're able to like, debate and figure it out, so that child can't manipulate the situation, or like, all right, cool, yeah, I can do whatever the hell I want, like at mom's house, dad's house, or whatever. But if we're on the same page, then it's easier for them to be like, okay, like, even if I go from mom to dad, then it is what it is, you know, and with a little like tweaks and adjustments. But so it got better over time. But in it took a trial and error and developing, and again, going through the motions of healing, detaching, and then after that, going straight to the point of like putting him first. And then from there of like establishing like what is the, if not the boundary, what is the more, like how are we trying to raise him, basically, you know? So that helped out tremendously afterwards and knowing that he had my back and I had his back. So like, instead of him, Jaden, my son, running to me and be like, blah, 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 like, we have each other's back no matter what, like, or confiding in the situation, whether it be, you know, if he were to get in trouble, you know, it'd be that resort of calling and just being like, okay, this is what happened, and us being on the same page of how to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it, it's got to take so much time, not only to like get each of you, because it's you both of you used to be in a relationship,
yes,
so it's like
yes.
you had to completely disassociate from that, put him in a different role. Like at the end of the day, this is my son's parent, and I am my son's parent, and we need to like have dialogue in a way that is not intertwined with our past relationship. Like that has got to be so challenging.
But the great part about it is that over time, since I do have him in my space and I'm, raising him, and again, his dad has like moved around, and the part about him having my back is that even if we agree to disagree, for an example, and
you and Jada, not you and your son's dad.
Or me and his dad.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the day, the respect piece is that, say like I'm his mom, right? So the good part is that even if maybe his dad would not agree to a certain thing, he will respect me in that moment and be like, Jaden, either way, like listen to your mom. Period.
That's
good.
Like
period.
That's
like,
good.
Like respect her. Period. Like whatever she says, like it goes. And you're right. It doesn't go like that for all.
That is good because not all co-parents work.
And I am blessed with that. If I can say anything, like I think I have the perfect example of, like, I think my life is great as a single mom, and it was hard from the beginning, but I would now as it's going, like I wouldn't change that. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just seeing how he has grown and like who he is as a young man, like you both have done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
My hat goes off to
you.
both of you.
Thank you.
And to you and to his dad for figuring that out, because I
figuring
know
out
that
what
can't
is,
be easy.
like even if there is, it's trying to figure out what you can do to build them even if they are struggling, and I think we were able to figure out, like, it once you get past that, it's not about yourself in both parties. You're able to establish, what you can do to meet in the middle to build that up.
Right. And you have to let go of your past bullshit.
Yes. Or not be triggered through,
and also living so far away from each other, too, I would imagine.
Yes.
The communication being kind of a struggle at first, but then eventually...
But it is also helpful because he has his dad got him a phone, and we're able to, like, they can communicate together, and then we figure out, if I were right now, currently, if I were to, the only flaw or a thing that we can somewhat adjust is the fact that, my son looks older than he is, and that he shouldn't have to be the one that needs to schedule things out. So, and I get it, great with communication, but when it comes to, to redirect of, like, we are still the parents and adults, that in this situation, he shouldn't have to think, he should just do. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he looks older, but he's also more mature.
He is more mature,
that could
yes.
Be like,
but
it seems like he can handle
But knowing that he doesn't, he's still, like, embracing that he has, like, this time span of being a child that to take away from, him having, I mean, it's a great experience for him to, like, have to plan things out and and middleman it, but there comes a situation where it's just like, like, let him just play, and let us just figure it out in this like a couple seconds, like on our own, and it's working out from there, but it's okay.
In that journey to get to where you guys are at, which seems like the best it's ever been, has there been a lot of instances of, like, having to swallow your pride when it comes to co-parenting? Like, how do you keep your cool or remain objective when it comes to, like, your son's perception of his parents being separated? Especially when, like, I'm sure you're spending time with him and maybe he says something and, you've got it in that moment. Swallow your pride and be like, that's his father.
You need to watch your tongue. There's some things that it's... Maybe once Jaden gets older, sure, if he asks, I'll tell him. Tell him things that, but he's a child, and I don't want him to build this resentment over his dad over anything. So, and I do believe in, people can brainwash your kids or, like, just make them look better than the other. And it's not about that, whatever, his dad or his other family, like, does is, I think, you have to look at it in a positive light, you know. But watching my tongue, you know, whatever way that I feel in that moment with his dad or whatever the situation might be, shouldn't be a burden on my son, you know? So you got to watch, you know, what you're saying. It needs to be kind of black and white, like blah, 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 you know? Other than that, like no drama, you know, no hate, no whatever. It's just black and white, you know? And I think
talking about the other parent.
Yes, you got to watch your tongue. And again, you know, I don't know what happens on both parties, but I just know that, you know, with my son, like, you know, he's a lot like me.
Yeah.
He's very expressive and social and all that stuff, but and it's a gift and a curse, but you got to figure out how to utilize that in your life, you know? So
yeah. Well,
cool.
I think you guys are doing a great job. Come a long way.
Thank you.
Come a long way.
It's been rough, but it's I see the end goal. It's fun. It's good.
He's so good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Another question I wanted to ask you. I know it's been a long time. But
the baby question?
Yeah, like what sticks out to you about like your labor and delivery experience?
Oh goodness.
Because especially because I like to compare like being kind of like an older mom, air quotes older mom. Like you were probably more in your childbearing prime.
Yeah.
Just biologically.
Just
like looking at history.
Yes.
The majority of history, women have not had babies in their 30s, and that's just the reality of it now. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm going to still have babies in my 30s, Lord willing. Mm-hmm. But like, how was your pregnancy? Did you have complications? What was labor and delivery like for you?
Okay. Well, I had a great pregnancy, by the way. I threw up one time. And everything was glorious. That's probably one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I'm not going to have another baby again because it probably will be worse. Like, there's no way it can beat what.
One is never the same.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm good,
I never threw up either.
Yeah.
Really?
I would get nauseous if I didn't eat, if I let myself get hungry. I would get a little bit nauseous, but I never threw up. I
had a happy pregnancy. And his dad was, like, very supportive. It was good times.
No stress?
Nothing? No stress. Like once it came, so if I had to say, like, anybody to, like, the moms that are pregnant right now, is take every damn class. Like, don't skip one. I skipped the most important class, and it was a breathing class.
I never took a breathing class.
Okay, well, either way, I was 19 and had no idea about pregnancy. And or like the timing of pushing and blah, 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 you know, because even if your body's saying to push, you have to kind of stop, like, trying to push.
Yeah.
Okay, so
for many reasons.
Stop pushing.
Yeah, they tell you to stop pushing. So I remember,
not only just for tearing, but for babies' health.
Yes,
right?
but for the baby to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, like the fluids, like everything. So I remember. I just started pushing, and I remember looking at the clock, and I looked at this nurse, like, right next to me, and I was like, how long is this going to take? And she's like, honey, did you take the birthing class? I was like, no, that's the only one I skipped. She's like, okay, well, we don't know how long this is going to take. And I just remember thinking, like, I had the epidural, but I felt everything.
Oh, no.
I felt everything because, like, everything just kind of flows through my body. And I just remember just thinking, like, hell no.
No, I don't think it worked that way. I think they just did it wrong.
Or something. I don't know. I just remember thinking, like, there is no way in hell I am going to suffer through this right now. Like, I want it out. All I remember thinking is, like, get the hell out of me now. The doctor and the nurse was saying, like, Miss Dorito, you need to stop pushing. I'm like, how? Like I need, like, my body's telling me to push. I need to push. So I did, and I shot him out, like, very quickly.
Oh,
and
stupid.
my mom was in the mix, and Jaden came out not crying. He was not saying a word. He didn't cry. And I remember him being near kind of my stomach. And my mom was there. I let my mom be right next to me along with Jaden's dad. And I just remember the doctor's like, oh, you want to cut the umbilical cord? And I'm like, oh, okay. Handed his dad the scissors, and he, like, snipped it halfway through. He eventually cut it, and they took him, you know, like that whole procedure that they say, like, if he's, you know, if there's any complications, we're going to take him over here. Mm-hmm. And so they did. And they were trying to, like, pump his lungs and get him to start crying. And it was, like, I remember it being dead silent. And I remember looking around the room and seeing everyone's faces. Like, everybody was scared. Like, oh, my gosh, like, is
is he breathing?
Is he breathing? Yeah. Like, is everything okay? But in that moment, it's interesting because once the baby comes out, it's like, well, with my experience, it was like stillness. Like, I didn't feel pain. It was just gone. And with the, I'm very intuitive in that moment. Like, I remember feeling like, whatever's happening right now, my son is going to be okay. I remember feeling peace. Yeah. I remember feeling like everything is okay. And while seeing everybody panicking and like the doctors, I was like, it's good. Stitch me up. Fine. I'm good. We're good. Everybody's fine. And eventually they were able to get him to cry, but it was kind of like a
stuff, yeah.
A stutter cry. And they're like, Miss Narita, we're going to take your baby out to like a different room to get him going, whatever. So like they stitched me up and I was fine. And I remember his dad like standing right there and he was like worried about like, do I stay with you or do I go with my baby? Mm-hmm. What do I do? And I remember looking and I was like, I'm fine.
Go with the baby.
Go with the baby. Yeah. It's fine. Before they had to transfer my son out to the hospital, and I looked over, and I remember seeing Jaden's face for the first time, and he was just like, his little chest was just kind of like, just like struggling to breathe. And I looked down at him, and I was just like, honestly, my first thought was like, dang, like, he's like my kid.
Yeah.
And I remember tripping out on that, but I was not afraid. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, and I was like, you're going to be okay, and I'll see you soon. Like, it was weird. Yeah. Like, it was like such a detached, like, weird experience of just, I felt really brave if I had to, not in no fear at all.
But you had that intuition, like you knew.
Yeah, like I knew, like he's gonna be fine. Like you're gonna be fine. And I'm like, I'm sorry for pushing out so quick that you couldn't breathe. Like I'm so sorry, but like my bad. But you're gonna be fine, and I'll see you. So, he was shipped out to a different hospital, and I was the next day I was like the fourth person to hold him. So again, the detachment was real. So you didn't
get that like skin,
the skin to skin and holding and the crying piece. I didn't cry either. Yeah. His dad cried, but I didn't feel like any. I just felt like relieved.
Yeah.
I felt like you're here and it's great and like whatever, but I didn't feel like that overwhelming of like my life just it was weird. And I was also thankful to have my own body back. It was
I don't
weird.
think there's anything wrong with that. It doesn't mean you love your child any less.
No,
I think so many women have this like experience ingrained in like how things should be or go,
or like picture perfect whatever we
exactly
see
like you're like you should automatically be like emotionally attached to your child when that is. I think it's also something incredibly taboo that people don't talk about. Like, it takes a while to develop that bond with your baby.
I did think for a minute that something was wrong with me in that matter. I'm like, okay, maybe this is...
Sometimes it takes, like, months or even years to do that with some women. And look at him now. He's just, like...
He's great.
The perfect kid.
Yeah, he's great. So he's freaking awesome. I would never change him. But that was my experience. And it was very interesting. And I do remember that.
Do you want to have any more kids?
Heck no.
No? Yeah.
No, sorry, Bob. No, thank you. No, thank you. I remember.
She put the no, sorry,
I remember
Bob
before I got pregnant, I was telling my cousin Rochelle, and I did not know I was pregnant. I wasn't pregnant, but it was actually like a month after I got pregnant. And I looked at her and I was just like, I don't know how, how people have freaking babies. I was like, I'm selfish. And I'm like, and to have a child, you have to be selfless. And I just remember, saying that to her. And she's like, yeah, dude, like, da-da-da. And that's when how funny that blessing happens. And you're just like, okay, let's humble you real quick. I'm like, oh, you want to be selfish? Like, let's see what so I like to say that James saved my life in that piece of
ways.
He helped me through it. He made me a better person in that sense, so
that's amazing.
I'm glad it happened.
Thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
I remember meeting him for the first time. I think I was in your periphery. I was like outside of the room.
Oh, you were. I don't remember who was there.
I arrived hours later, and then I followed Daniel to the NICU.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I did, and I was there, and he was like holding Jaden. He was just like touching his face, and I was just like kind of like watching, like, oh, that's my nephew. Like,
really? Oh gosh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I just remember him having the perfect little face.
He was a pretty. Hey, for coming out of my vagina. He didn't have a coat in or anything. He looked beautiful. Sorry.
Did you tear? Like, that's also a misconception. Yeah. Stitching doesn't mean you will be tighter, by the way.
I did decide to cut it clean. You know how you have the option?
You had the episiotomy?
I did it.
Dude. Yeah. Oh, you did or did not?
I did it.
You did it.
I don't know why I decided a clean cut, because I think maybe, I didn't want it, whatever.
So an episiotomy is when they cut
She said,
they cut your perineum.
Yeah.
So they, instead of letting you tear naturally with the head, they cut you to, like, let the baby come out.
It's because, like,
clean
I had, I thought, like, in my vision, I was like, what if it went like da-da-da, or like da-da, like, whatever, with my mind thinks of whatever.
So they actually recommend against it now, but, like, back then it was
fine.
The same thing,
And I mean, I don't know. Just kidding.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into some questions that we received on Instagram. So we submitted an AMA. Amber also reposted it to her story, so she got some questions as well. So let's get into it.
Amber herself, like only.
Yeah, I tagged you. You didn't do anything with that
I've been. I'm really bad at texting. I was working.
Rolly doesn't get technology.
It's on Instagram.
Instagram. Rolly does not get technology.
I'm horrible. Sorry.
Rolly has a Nokia.
She's got the brick phone.
The brick phone
with the snake game on it.
That's how you do it. I got the razor.
So, this question is submitted by Jaleesa's mama. This is Yesenia. Do you know Yesenia? Yesenia asks, how do you deal with spending time with baby but also cleaning? I think we can all probably answer this question.
Oh, God.
How do I deal with spending time with baby but also cleaning? So, I try to compartmentalize my time as much as I can. I am working on not doing any of, like, my household chores while my kids are kind of, like, up and around, because I think that, like, takes away from my time with them. So I do my best to only kind of clean or do, like, house related things when they're either napping or down for the night. I've also made it, like, the communication piece with Maurice has taken me a lot of time, and, like, moving away from, like, my passive aggressiveness and more, like, outward, like, here's what I need from you to, like, do the things that I find value in. And so we've developed kind of, like, a really good routine after the kids go to sleep. And we try our best to, like, not do the things that take away from our time with them while they're, you know, active and awake, and we have, like, the daytime with them. So how I deal is I cut into my own time. And I've really had to kind of, like, look and ask myself, like, is this something important to me? I.e. cleaning my home and taking care of my house. And after, you know, some years living here, yes, it is really important to me, because, like, for my kind of, like, mental state and, like, and I've just talked to you guys about this, like, it's just something that makes me, like, breathe and function better. And, like, it makes my life kind of feel, like, At ease, yeah. So everyone has their thing. I think for me, it's, like, order and structure and, like, getting, you know, things done, like, keeping my hands busy. Mm-hmm. I have a really big issue with, like, not sitting still, and I think this is something that really, like, helps that. But
checking our own.
Yeah, but it definitely has taken some time. There is I don't think there's a right or wrong amount of time to devote to however you see, you know, your home to be. Like, everyone's got a different way of living. Mm-hmm. So I definitely do not spend as much time in other places, and, you know, maybe that will change over time, but that's just me. Mm-hmm. How about you?
I'm not gonna go with the baby stage, because, again, it was a blur, so I'm not even gonna lie about that. I just went with whatever I could do at that time. Yeah. But now, currently, the system that works with me and Jaden is that we call it deep cleaning Sundays.
Oh. Where
he is in charge of his own room. He does the bathrooms, and he does all trash. And then I do my room, and then the living room and the kitchen. We also established that every day, you know, I know that he does sports, but, like, if he were to do his own downtime, like, say, playing video games, he knows the rule is, if there's any trash or plates that are in his room at the time that is not in the sink or thrown out, he has to stop immediately. But if it's all good, he can play. So that's the only really rule I have. Like, so there's deep cleaning days, or of course if we do laundry, to put away his clothes at the end of the day in his liking. As long as it's done, I don't care what time, just get it done. So trash, plates, blah, Sunday deep cleaning, and it works.
Nothing worse than old food. Kids' bedroom.
Exactly, like get your fork, get the forks off, like get your boxers in the damn basket, whatever. But he knows, and he knows also to like wash his own clothes too, like if need be, But
good, he knows how to do laundry.
He knows how to do laundry.
That's good.
Doing laundry.
Yeah, there's sometimes like, and again, like my parenting skills might be a little rough sometimes. I'm like, boy, I keep track of how many times I've trained you with this, okay? So by the third time he's like, Mom, which button did I press? I'm like, why don't you just guess and let's just see where your instincts are in that, And then he's able to get around. I'm like, good job. So you need me here to be your cheerleader. Like, that's cool. So next time, are you going to remember how to do this? He's like, yeah. I was like, do you have any questions? No. All right, bet. And then we move on. But,
bet.
Bet. You gotta go with his.
Man, I cannot wait to make my kids do chores.
It's bomb. The best part is like teaching them how to be independent. Like, Jaden may be, I don't know, how old are they when they start like trying to tie their shoes? I don't remember this, but I remember it being rough. Like, he would tell me, he's like, oh no, like he was throwing a little tantrum. I was like, boy, what would you do if I wasn't here? Like, are you just gonna, I'm like, are you gonna quit? Or are you gonna try? Like, what are you gonna do,
So the next question is submitted by my friend Claire. Hi, Claire. Thank you for asking the question. I think we can all answer this one.
Okay. Amber, you're first.
How do you deal with resentment towards your spouse or partner? Housework, being the default parent all the time, not sharing the responsibilities, etc.
Ooh.
And I think we all have different perspectives on this one.
Well, you get a divorce.
No, I'm
oh my God, we're done with this podcast. It's perfect. That's done. No.
How do you deal with resentment towards your spouse?
That's really hard because I had a lot of resentment about that when I was married, and we didn't even have kids. But I think like you mentioned, the passive aggressive, you have to be vocal and you have to talk to them like a human. Mm-hmm. You can't just be like huffing, puffing, and being mad because you're doing the dishes and expect them to understand that, she's huffing and puffing in the kitchen. Yeah. She's mad because I'm not helping
They're
her.
Not mind readers.
No, they're not mind readers. And as much as you want them to read your mind and be like, can't you see me? Working, doing all of these things, like, can't you see me? Like, don't you see that this is what I want from you? You can't expect them to understand that or to, like, read your mind. You have to tell them, like, hey, I just worked an 8-hour day. I just did this. I need your help here. Can you please do this for me? Can you please do that for me? And if you don't, if you vocalize that and they still don't help you, then
that's just deeper problems.
There's deeper problems.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, like, I think the whole mind reading thing, I still have resentment after, like, understanding that because Maurice has told me, and I've talked about this before, like, he's just like, I can tell you are stressed and you have things running through your mind and I can tell that you are, like, carrying something. Mm-hmm. Let me help you. Like, write it down. And my reaction is, oh, you want me to make you a list? To, like, that's just another thing to add to my list, to make you a list, and then you can go do it. Like, let me take 30 minutes of the time that I don't have, and that's where that kind of carries forward. But honestly, like, without saying so, we're wired differently. Yes. Like, it is what it is. Like, whether it's, like, masculine, feminine, or even, like, whatever, like, presence that be, like, man, woman, whatever your relationship is, like, there are going to be differences there. Yes. And
well, so women naturally are nesters. So your mental load is mainly focused on getting the house
your space
clean, getting your house clean, getting your house organized, keeping your space together, keeping your kids fed, and whatever, what have you. Whereas the men's mental load, like, you might be sitting here stressed about your house clean, but Maurice might be sitting here stressed about making money or getting this, doing, being the man or whatever it is that men worry about. I don't fucking know.
Who knows what's in your eyes,
it is that, like, men worry about, like biologically women are nesters, and men have a different kind of priority, I guess. So you might both be having the same feeling about different things. He might be like, oh, you know, I need to be the breadwinner, or I need to be this, or I need to be more masculine, I need to be supportive of my family, and I feel like I'm failing at that. Like, not that he is, but I'm just saying that might be his struggles, and your struggles are over here like, oh, I need to clean my kitchen, you know? And so you're both sitting there like, fuck, I wish I could help the other one, but I don't know what to do to help take that mental load off of the other one. So, like, having that open communication is really important.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where, like, there are, to an extent, there are roles that you just fit better in. It's like, you don't want to fall into that, like, tradition trap, but at the same time, it's like, we are, like, biologically wired to worry about different things and care about different things, and
biologically and socially.
Yeah, and socially. Yeah. So, how do we deal with resentment?
Communication. It's about communications. Yeah. If it really goes deep, like couples therapy, like talking it out with somebody that can help you focus on whatever it is that you're resenting each other for, and then like working that out with a therapist is helpful.
Yeah. I think that was the hard part for me, was being able to, because, you know, being in the industry of service and then the culture of hospitality, you know, like, I think that, you know, in a lot of my relationships, like, you know, like, even, you know, not just Jaden's dad, was, you know, like, obeying and doing and keeping your mouth shut in a way, and you know, whatever was built in that resentment, like, I'm still learning day by day, even now, of being able to use my voice in that, you know. I think that I think it's a big culture piece, if not just what I was raised for, was just like, you're a woman and you just do, you know?
Culture, also love languages. I'm a firm believer in the love languages.
Yeah, to serve, to love.
What is your love language?
My love language is to serve, and if not just to serve, like...
Acts of service?
Acts of service, yes.
So is mine! Oh my gosh!
Acts of service, 100%, yes.
High five!
One of my flaws is that if I'm not speaking up of what my expectation is, it's not going to be served towards me, you know? Yeah. And it's almost like, you know, again, men can't read your mind, and that's my thing that I'm learning. And if they're not knowing
that your love language is, I serve you because that's my love language. I cook for you, I clean for you, I do this for you because that's how I show you that I love you. Yeah. But if that's not theirs, and they're not realizing, oh, she's doing all of these things because she's loving me, well, his love language might be...
physical touch
or quality time.
Yeah.
And if his is quality time, well, you guys are spending all this quality time together. He's sitting doing whatever.
So Maurice is physical touch and quality time.
And
like,
I'm both.
Mine is just, and that's hard for me to like really remember, because all I'm thinking about is like, I feel love when like I receive like your acts of service without being asked. Yes. And that's like, I
volunteer,
feel
volunteer to do that.
I would have expected you to be physical touch. Are you not?
I am too.
Okay.
I was going to mention that too, is that I've noticed that, you know, it's almost like a validation of like, I love you, I want you, and like, you are whatever, you know? But it's weird because I'm not like that with, you know, like my kids, like with Jaden, like I'm just like, boundary, hey, you know, you're breathing on me. I mean, like,
it depends on who it is.
It depends, you know, so like there's
that's
like this
love, like relationship.
It's different. It's really different, and it depends on my mood, and I feel like I'm just like all over the place.
Are you purely acts of service?
I'm acts of service with like a slight lean towards quality time.
What's the other one? The last one?
There's quality time, acts of service,
physical touch,
and then words of affirmation.
I might need that too.
That's all bullshit to me.
Yeah, words of bullshit to you guys, but I'm just like a little bit of like milking, and I'm just like,
so my ex was the same, was
quality time
and physical touch, and so it's totally different. You know, he's like, well, we're hanging out. Like, I just thought it was fine because we were like spending time together and we were like doing things, and I was like,
so I mean, we spend every night together, and like, you know, with just because we have downtime at the end of the night, and he will come to me and he'll say like, I really miss you, I really miss having time together.
You're like, bitch, I'm with you every day.
With you every day, like, but at the same time, it's like with just, you know, like husband and wife, not like mom and dad. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's two very different dynamics that I need to remember.
That's a good thing.
That. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, because it's two very different things. Like, we have now expanded our roles into like parents, but we had a whole other dynamic before having kids, and I think that has often taken the back burner now that we have.
And again, it's temporary,
priority.
and your kids are eventually going to,
Exactly.
flap the nest.
Yeah.
And at
So
the
it's
end
like,
of the
it's
day,
important
it's
to invest.
between you two.
Yeah.
And how is that going to be?
Keep that relationship.
I honestly
strong.
think that's going to be a struggle for me, which is why, like, we are doing our best to, well, he's doing, I think, admittedly, he's doing more than I am in investing that time there into each other, because at the end of the day, like, when our kids leave the house, I think that's going to be tough for me to be like, okay, I'm assuming a role that's not necessarily mom first anymore. And that's going to be, I think, hard for me.
Which is like the opposite.
Because I identify, like, I really take a lot of my own identity now into being a mom. And that is not who I am purely. Like, it's not who I am holistically. You know what I mean?
Which is why I'm proud that you're doing this.
Yeah. But, okay, next question. Jacob asks, where is your happy place?
The beach.
Why the beach for you?
Because I grew up there. It's like,
We
I
all
don't know,
grew up
something.
there.
Yeah, something about the sound of the ocean and like seeing like there's no end to it. You know, it just like goes on. If I keep my windows open, I can hear the. I live across the street from the beach,
So you can
if I
hear it,
open my
yeah.
window, I can hear the ocean. But just like, I don't know, just the waves, putting my feet in the water,
Yes.
putting my feet
Grounding,
on the sand,
earthing.
grounding.
Yeah.
Like, I love being barefoot.
Helps
I've
with
always been a
anxiety.
barefoot bitch.
I love like the traveling alone piece. To feel like
But where, though? Like, where
anywhere.
is that?
It doesn't
Anywhere.
matter. Just
Home
being
away from home.
home away from home. Just for a moment though, because
Yeah.
I love home.
Yeah.
Like, I prefer to be back home.
Yeah.
But when I'm out there, it's feeling just so, this world is so, it's small but big at the same time.
Yeah.
But to feel like nothing and everything at the same time is like glorious, and to be alone in your thoughts and to be and observe that's my happy place.
So my happy place, I never know how to answer these types of questions because my answer is always pretty lame. I just like being in my physical home.
It's not bad.
I mean, I guess my answer is like with my family, but to be real, I just want to be in my home with the house clean and like the chores done and like in my bed watching trashy TV. That is home to me, and just having a clear mind with a crossed off to-do list and just peace.
Satisfied,
That is home for me.
I can see that.
I love a crossed off to do list.
Oh my gosh, it feels so good.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
very rewarding.
Yeah, and like not having your mind spinning. Okay, last question, and I think we'll wrap it up. We're already at the 1.5 hour mark. I can't believe it.
I believe it. I believe it.
I know, right?
Truly.
Okay, so this question, I don't know who submitted it, but let us read through it. I think, Amber, you received this one. Post miscarriage, is there anything that popped up that you would have handled differently, e.g., daily life, relationship, personal, or mental health? I think in my most recent, which I literally just physically came out of, I'm doing much better. I think my work trip really helped, just because kind of like separated myself from that, like, okay, I finished the physical toll of my miscarriage, was able to like have a very necessary break, even though it was an exhausting work trip, like to get away. But now I'm feeling like much more clear, much more, at peace with everything. But I could just, once the diagnosis happened, I was kind of just and once the physical toll was taking place, I was like pushing myself to like on this healing timeline that was much more accelerated than I gave myself time for, because all I saw this as was wasted time. And I think that I really resented the whole situation, because I'm just like, okay, this is just like a wasted time in my life, worrying about this, like dwelling on this, being emotional about this. And I think I just like had a lot of anger to the point where, and I mean, still a little bit, but like anger to the point where I'm like forcing myself to heal faster than I should.
Rather than going with
because
the flow.
I'm just like, I'm just wasting time worrying about this when I could be focusing on something else or focusing on, you know, putting my time in more productive ways when like, no, it is productive to focus on your healing and to take time to do that. Probably should consider taking time off of work to heal from a very real experience. And so I think like forcing things into my own agenda that really don't have the credit or the time or the focus that they should have is something I really should do differently if, God willing, I don't go through something like this again. But if I do, like really recognizing it for what it is and knowing that, no, I'm not this big, strong person. Like, yes, I am. But at the same time, like, it's okay to give it the time that it needs to, and give myself the time that I need to, like, really feel sorry for myself and like give myself the time to like bawl my eyes out or feel low because that's all necessary. You know what I mean?
You wanted to be pregnant? Did you want?
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, we want to be pregnant now.
Trying.
I think right now I feel like an immense sense of relief that it's over and that like I don't have to think about that anymore. We're not in any way like rushing to do this. Like I have like a girls trip planned in a couple months and I want to like not be pregnant for that, and like now I'm like looking forward to that. And so it's nice to like not have to think about, you know, my timeline or like my ovulation or you know what I mean. Good. So a sense of relief. But I think in that like month period of time where we're just like so like excited and hopeful, and then like all of it just like comes crashing and burning, like that was just awful, and like forcing myself to get out of that was a bit too rapid.
And again, you've had a total of how many?
4.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what that's attributed to. Probably, you know, starting to like get pregnant at a later stage in my life. Like my mom's had several miscarriages. I don't know if it's genetic or hereditary in any way, but you know,
curious about that.
I don't know.
Have you ever?
How about
had any?
you, Amber?
As far as my relationship, there's nothing I would have done differently. My partner at the time was like super supportive of everything, so that was really nice. But like you said, like allowing yourself to heal. Like I went back to work the next week, like right back. I was at work with ice packs in my bra, like back at like.
I don't know. You went back the next week.
Well, so yeah, it happened on I want to say like a Friday or something, or I had like 3 days off in between. Yeah, so I was in the hospital for like 2 days, and then I had like 2 or 3 days at home, and then I went back to work.
Oh, wow.
So I had like 2 or 3 days at home. So I remember being at work like with ice packs and shoved into my bra, like just like, and then I also remember like crying at work. I remember texting one of the other managers at the other hotel, who is a mom and just was she was like my work sister. And I just remember texting her, like, I've just been in the fucking bathroom downstairs, like, crying. Like, I just, like, couldn't even. And so just, like, forcing myself to heal faster than I probably should have.
Like, get back into the swing.
Yeah, just, like, I just have to get back to my normal life, and then it'll go away.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go away. Yeah, it doesn't go away. And so I definitely should have given myself more time to heal. I probably should have, like, they tried to give me meds and force anti-anxiety pills and stuff on me, which is, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Sometimes I almost wish like I probably should have given them a try.
Yeah.
But I didn't. And so, but I feel like I should have started therapy earlier. I should have done something to help my mental health earlier before I let it get to what it eventually developed into.
Speaking about my experience, I'm looking at it now, like as we're talking. I think I tricked my mind into thinking, because I was so early
it's
on.
A period, yeah.
Yeah, into thinking that it's a period, and like I was able to go through that. Yeah.
When you're talking about early miscarriage, I mean, a lot of women who experience a late period are actually experiencing like a chemical miscarriage at like 4 or 5 weeks along.
Right.
That's why the miscarriage statistic for first trimester pregnancy loss is largely understated. Like, it's probably way higher than what it is. Mm-hmm. But it's just unreported because there's no way to have an accurate number of what that looks like. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
But like, I'm like the messiness about it though. I had PTSD about my periods for months after that because I bled
just
so much.
Bleeding,
yeah, because I bled so much and I saw the amount of blood that left my body from my vagina, and it was like, oh my God. And I remember even, you know, afterwards they're like, okay, you know, you're gonna bleed for a while, that's gonna be normal, it should lighten up over the next couple of weeks, whatever. So that was fine. But I remember like my next period, like every time I saw
just like
blood, it was like I had this like,
oh my gosh,
like oh my God, I'm fucking hemorrhaging. Yes, like I'm gonna die, I'm gonna bleed to death. Like it was, and it was like that. I've had that for probably almost like a year, where it was like PTSD. Anytime blood left my body, it was like, oh my God, this is happening again. I'm gonna die. Like I'm hemorrhaging.
Have you noticed that like in this whole conversation, like as much as like I feel like we are connected through our sense of humor, as much as we're all different.
Are we?
Like that's I mean, if you think about it, like we're three different individuals, but like if you were to like think about Amber right now, she talks about like PTSD and trauma. You talk about more of your like emotional experiences and like, you know, the loss of it, and I talk more about like detachment.
I mean,
all walks of life.
Exactly, all walks of life. Like everyone's got so many unique experiences, but just even hearing your guys' experiences, like I don't know anything about co-parenting. I don't know anything about, you know, the experiences you've been through, but it's like, it makes me feel like, okay, I'm literally not at all in any way alone in the very isolating experiences that I have. Yeah. And so I just want to thank you guys for being so vulnerable with me. Like, thank you so much. I think we should stop it here. And thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in after a fairly long break. We are going to have a fun weekend. This is literally the first time the three of us have hung out in a very long time. So we are going to, quote unquote, get crazy. We may or may not film a TikTok this weekend. I'm going to be forcing them to film a TikTok with me. Anyway, thank you so much. And I want to give a quick shout out to Tanya, who won my 1K giveaway. Congratulations. That's really exciting. And congratulations on you and your husband and your baby girl soon to come.
Tanya. So excited.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. And
she was on the Team G-Hos.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you guys next time and talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
This was perfect.